everyone, it's Rachel from Desert Blossom Crafts back with another stitch tutorial. Today I'm excited to share the tutorial for the camel stitch. This is a really fun stitch. It's just a 2-row repeat. You can have any multiple of stitches and it gives this really nice fabric that is pretty close to looking like knitting, as you can see here. So it involves a technique where we work in the 3rd loop of half double crochet. But if you're unfamiliar with that, don't worry because I will be showing you everything you need to do in this tutorial. As far as materials go, I am using worsted weight yarn. This is my Maxim Starlet yarn. You can really use any worsted weight yarn, but this is just something I had on hand, and I'm using an H or 5mm crochet hook to go with it. To get started with this stitch, you're going to need a foundation single crochet row. You can use traditional chains, but I like to use foundation single crochet because it has a more stretchy base. The nice thing about this stitch is you can use any multiple of stitches, so whether you're using chains or single crochet, it doesn't matter. You can do as many as you'd like. If you decide to use a chain though, you will want to do 1 row of regular single crochet to get on the same page as me. If you're unfamiliar with foundation single crochet and you want to learn how to do it, I have a tutorial. You can check that out in the cards. So here I have 8 foundation single crochet. Like I said, you can do as many or as few as you want. I just have a few here so I can demonstrate quickly. And once you do this, we're going to chain 1, turn, and half double crochet across. So this is kind of like the setup row for the camel stitch. So I'm just half double crocheting in the first stitch. That first chain obviously does not count as a stitch. And then we're just half double crocheting across this row. So there I have 3 done, 4, and I'm just going to keep going. There is my 8th one all done. So that's what the first row should look like. Now we're ready to start the camel stitch. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And now this is where we need to talk about that technique I was telling you about at the beginning. We're half double crocheting in the 3rd loop. So if you look at the structure of a half double crochet, up here is the top of the stitch. This is where we generally insert our hook, right? Anytime we're doing a single crochet or double crochet, we usually go right in here. So these are the V's of the top, but the half double crochet has this interesting extra loop in it just due to the way the stitches worked, and it's called the 3rd loop, and it's the loop where if you're looking at the wrong side, so this is the wrong side of the half double crochet, it looks like there's a whole another V right here on the side. So I'm talking here and here, here and here, here and here, and this bottom loop right here is called the 3rd loop. So if we look at it from the top again, this loop right here is kind of like making up the V of the regular V that we normally go into, but it also makes up this V on the front that we see. So we really don't want to pay any attention to this top thing because what we're going to do is work into the 3rd loop of each half double crochet. And again, this is from the back of a half double crochet. This is the front that you generally see and that generally people want showing when they work half double crochet. But from the back, that's where we find the 3rd loop. So let's go ahead and turn and I'll show you how to do the first stitch. So I've chained 1. Here I'm turning and here's the back of that work again, and we're going to go into the first 3rd loop, which is right here. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook right here. There's my 3rd loop, and then I'm just completing the half double crochet like normal, and that's what we're going to keep repeating. So for the next stitch, here's the top of the stitch, and right here is that 3rd loop we want to go into. See there, my hook is inserted, and complete half double crochet. And this is just what we're going to repeat across. So here's my next one. And again, right here. Now one thing that you want to be aware of You don't want to confuse the third loop with this vertical bar right here. So the third loop is a horizontal bar right here. If you look right here, this bar is vertical, and we're not going in the vertical one. We want to go in this horizontal one right here. Okay, so there we have 5 done. So if I turn it around, here's what it starts to look like. You can see by going in that third loop, we're pushing the regular top of the stitch, this V, to the front, and that is what gives this stitch the really nice knitted type look. So I'm just going to finish this all the way to the end of the row. Okay, so here I have 1 stitch left, and when we get to the last one, it's a little tricky to see the third loop. It is right here. Okay, but something with the last stitch, the third loop, because it's just 1 loop, it can tend to be a little bit like loose. So see how you can really see where that loop was, and that does work back on itself, and it's not like that always, but on the end stitch you may want it to be a little bit more sturdy. So if you'd like to, you can go and just go through more loops on the last stitch. Just kind of insert your hook in the edge and then complete your half double crochet. So that will just make the edges a little more sturdy, but that's up to you. If you want it to really retain the V look all the way across, you can still do that last one in the third loop. The edge just might be a little bit more flimsy. So now we're all ready to do row 3. I'm just going to chain 1 again and turn. So for this next row, we're on a right side row. So now we can see those V's facing us. So that means we're on a right side row. And the thing is, if we do this row the same, if we work in that third loop all the way across, the V's are going to get pushed to the back side, and so it won't make it as much of a knitted look. So there's a different way that we do row 3 in order to push those V's back to the front again. Now this is a little bit tricky, so bear with me. I'm going to show you once and then I will explain in detail. So we're going to insert our hook into the top of the stitch this time from the back. Okay, so here is the top of the stitch, and I'm just going in, but making sure to not catch the third loop. So here the third loop is right underneath my hook. And then I'm going to use my hook and bring the third loop to the back so that my hook is now only in the third loop, and make a half double crochet. And what you can see is when I do that, the V's come to the front. So basically what we're doing here is we're catching the third loop, but we're catching it from the back of the work instead of from the front. And it's a little bit confusing and a little bit hard to get used to, so just take your time. But let's do it again together. So for the next stitch, here are the top 2 loops. Here's the third loop, so I'm going to insert my hook from the back in the top loops, in order that I can grab the third loop and bring it around to the back. And now those V's are in the front right here, and complete half double crochet. So here you can see those V's are going to start coming together. So again, from the back of the work in those top 2 loops. Now the third loop is right here. So I'm bringing my hook around the third loop to the back and making my half double crochet. So this is how we get that third loop, and we kind of are able to make it come to the front. Not the third loop, that is, make the V's come to the front and still go through that third loop. So here I'm doing it again. Oop, and that time I lost it. So this does take a little bit of practice. And it really does help to see it in a video. If you're trying to do this from a written pattern, it's a little tricky. But see, once we get to the end, right now it's kind of like separate, but once we get to the end, these rows will start coming back on each other and really giving it that nice knitted look. So let's do that again. Insert, come back, and make a half double crochet. So I just have 3 more to do here. here's my last one. Can get a little tricky on the edge, but still just insert it and then bring it back. Okay, so there we have it. That is your row 3 where we're inserting from the back. Now to continue, you would chain 1, turn. So here's the wrong side. It's very obviously the wrong side of the work because the right side is the stuff with the pretty V's. Now here I've chained 1 again, and now I would do this just like the beginning where I just work in the 3rd loop the easy way. So this is kind of like the row where it's a little easier. You can kind of relax and just work in the 3rd loop. And I'll just do a few here so you can see what it looks like from the front. 3, and let's do 1 more. So again, here's that 3rd loop. Now if we come back, so here now you can see it. That 3rd one is starting to come back, and now we have 3 rows of V's going on. So there it is a bit closer. And then once you finish this, you would turn and repeat row 3 and do it from the back side. That's a little bit more tricky. So that's really all there is to making the camel stitch. It does take a little practice, so just take your time. You can do it. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. I will be glad to help with that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like a lot more stitch tutorials, make sure to come subscribe to my channel. I have a ton on there and I'm adding more weekly. I would love to see you around the channel more.